It's wonderful to be with all of you this morning. My name is Mara Ditchkens, and I am the Chief Advancement Officer for Lutheran Social Services. Today's panel will be discussing refugee resettlement and how we can welcome this dynamic and growing community into our workplaces. This is a subject that is of particular interest to me. My father came to this country as a refugee, and when he left his country in Eastern Europe during World War II, he spent his childhood in a displaced persons camp. And then his family came to the United States. They made it to Wisconsin. And I know how important it was for his family that they could find employment in the United States and begin to make a life for themselves and to be self-sufficient. My father's family was divided in half. So his father and older brothers ended up staying in their country of origin. And my dad, an older brother, and his mother made it to the United States. And my uncle was the one who supported that family. And he became an employee of General Motors, and he spent his entire career working for that business. And it allowed him to build community. It allowed him to be self-sustaining. It allowed my father to go to college and to chart a new course in life. And so I'm so grateful to each of you for having an interest in this topic, and to each of our panelists today for also helping to partner with LSS and our refugee resettlement program. I'm really honored to be able to welcome one of my colleagues. Omar Muhammad is the program manager for refugee resettlement. As an infant, he fled from Somalia during the Civil War. He went to Kenya and was in a camp there until in 2024, he came to the United States. He was resettled with LSS, and in 2014 began working with our organization, and today has grown to lead this incredible team. And Omar, I would love to welcome you to the podium with me. And we're just going to talk through a few things this morning just to set the stage on what refugee resettlement is. So first of all, Omar, when we talk about refugees, who are we referring to?
Thank you for that question. And thank you for all of you inviting me and giving me this honor. Just a minor correction. I came 2004.
Okay, 2000.
Yeah. So yeah, who are refugees? To be honest, refugees like us, you and I, they were people who used to be at their homes and their native countries, teachers, doctors, lawyers, judges, literally, I met them all. But then something outside of their control, they had to leave. But then just pack up in the middle of the day and just leave. That's what happens to refugees. They have families. They are all with little kids, moms, who are just minding her own business. But due to the situation outside of their control, where their countries cannot protect, their government cannot protect, they had to leave. Those are refugees. And when they come here to a new country and they try to adapt and then come back to the society, become a much productive community. That's what the refugees are. People like you and I. Just anytime you hear, think of that. Refugees are people. We know we classify them and make it others, but no, they're us.
Thank you. When we talk about refugees and thinking about the panel discussion today, are LSS refugees legally authorized to work in the United States?
Yes. Refugees, to just back up a little bit, refugee came up after, the World War II that happens. The 1951 convention, that was when it was instructed UNHCR. And then they defined the refugee, people who are well-founded fear, could not stay in their country. Like I said, their government cannot protect them, so they have to leave. Therefore, there are resettlement processes in place. This is worldwide. Multiple countries do resettle refugees. Among of them, one of us in America, it's defined into the Immigration and Nationalities Act, INA, or what refugees are. Therefore, the government selects and they vetted it, and they put through all the rigorous securities. After that, that's how they come. So they are fully legally documented. They got their rights to work, rights to own business, rights to, according to the convention, some of the stuff they qualify as the rights to housing, the rights to the legal, essential life necessary. But to back up to your question, they're legally documented. And when they come, part of our job is to make sure they get a job and make sure they can become a very productive society and support their families.
Great, thank you. Can you tell us about some of the challenges that our refugees face when they come to the United States?
Sure. Refugee, like I said, they are similar to the mainstream America. They are facing any challenge any low-income families are facing in this in every urban areas. So one of the main ones is housing. Access to housing is very hard. The other one is access to job that pays to support their family. Just another one. Most of the job that pays are still there. The problem is then the transportation, because you come to this country with a whole new system of communication or also commuting, which puts them a lot of stress on them because they have to know English to drive. So jobs are outside the city. So that's one main one. The other one is they come with the families. Not like a single man can just jump up. They have family, big families. So mom and dad working itself, for most of the things, the jobs that they work in don't pay enough. So the typical challenge that every other Americans have, the refugees have that as well.
Thank you. And lastly, what is the LSS approach to refugee resettlement?
Yeah, as the challenges I listed, one of the LSS approach is to mitigate those challenges. It's our job to make sure that they're not just here on their own. We hire teams who have the language capacity that the refugee speaks. When they get jobs, I know some jobs are very grateful. We are very grateful to them. The hospitality jobs and also the meat processing jobs, those are the places we place them. What we provide to the employers, interpreters. It's staff that we have who speak the language. We encourage them to go with them. Initially, the interview time, if the employers will let them. Also, orientation time, make sure that they know what they're doing, their job. So that's one of the stuff that we approach. But now, that's not all we do. The refugees are a family. Yes, job is take care for the father, but then the kids, we have to make sure they involve into all the typical folks do in America. So enroll them in school, make sure they know the language so that they can become a good citizen, and then also teach them the language. To become a citizen, you need to know at least the basic English and the civics. So those are the things we do. So as LSS, we look at them as a holistic. Get them a job, establish them, provide housing, provide safety, affordable housing, make sure they can have enough resources of their own. So, and we are their home agency, as we call it. So they come to us everything you can think of that families may face, they come to us. And we are there. And if we can, we provide. If we cannot, we refer it out. If it is employment, great employers that we have. If it is health, we refer them to the health systems. If it is school, we refer them to MPS. So those are the way we approach to make sure that they come into the society smoothly and fit it to the way it's intended for the program.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Omar, thank you so much for helping us set the stage for today's discussion. And now I would love to introduce our panelists. So we have Mark Dreikosen, who is the Director of Operations at Husco. With a background in engineering, he has held various roles in production support before transitioning into the operations leadership role. He currently oversees operations for Husco's Waukesha site, as well as automotive manufacturing just outside of Shanghai, China. Then we have Wendy Bushell, who is the Chief People Officer at Palermo's. She has over 20 years of experience in human resources. Wendy is committed to enhancing the employee experience by maintaining a strong culture based on core values and the successful onboarding of new employees. She keeps her freezer stocked with Palermo's pizza. Then we have Matt Martin, who is Corporate Director of Talent Acquisition at Marcus Hotels and Resorts, part of Marcus Corporation. Matt has extensive experience in the hospitality industry, specializing in talent acquisition and human resources. In 2002, Matt began his career with Marcus Corporation, working in multiple leadership roles. And lastly, we have our leader of LSS, Héctor Colón, who is president and CEO of Lutheran Social Services. Our agency serves over 30,000 individuals across Wisconsin and Upper Michigan each year, and he has expanded our services, our reach, and every day encourages us to really take hold of the clients that we're serving and to use servant leadership to make sure that we are making a change in the lives of everyone that we touch. And he demonstrates that every day. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Héctor.
Thank you so much, Mara, and I appreciate your story and sharing that with us and all you do for LSS to make us a better organization. I also want to thank all of our partners here. I appreciate you so much for partnering up with LSS to be here to learn more together and ultimately to make our communities better, a place where people can work, play, and enjoy their lives here in this area. Thank you so much for you to be on the panel here today, Mark, Wendy, and Matt. Appreciate your partnership as well. So I want to just share that we serve individuals that are literally fleeing from war and persecution. Many of you may have recalled when individuals were coming from Afghanistan, literally clinging on to that airplane in desperation for freedom, but eventually falling to their death. It was very tragic to see that. So we serve about over 300 of these individuals every year. And these individuals come to our country with $1,200 one time from the federal government. And within 90 days, we're getting their children enrolled in school, get them housing, get them connected to resources, and get them connected to a job. Within 6 months, almost 90% of these individuals have a job and are on a path to self-sufficiency. Is truly remarkable. And I'm joined by this group here today who has placed hundreds of refugees over the years with stable long-term jobs in your respective businesses. So thank you for sharing your stories here today. Mark, I want to start with you. Husco worked with LSS to hire 30 Afghan refugees between 2021 and 2022 after the Taliban takeover forced them to flee their homeland. Thank you. Let's go back to when things first started with you hiring refugees. What initially prompted Husco to hire refugees?
Oh, thank you. It started from need, really, from Husco. We were running equipment or choosing what equipment I had to shut down because I didn't have somebody there to run it. It's automotive components on a highly automated piece of equipment. It's fairly complex. We really had a challenge finding people that could work there, that wanted to work there. And daily, we were shutting pieces of equipment down without support staff. And we started reaching out with some of our staffing partners and Manpower. Manpower connected us with LSS and said, hey, we got an idea here. This isn't even an immediate solution. It's still weeks, even 2 months out, but would you guys consider this? And we're like, yeah, of course, let's figure out a way to make it work. And that is really like the decision point of how can you make it work, and how can you have a team that will refuse to let this fail so that you see the greater good and understand, what that's going to do for the company, what that's going to do for these individuals, and how we're going to work as a team. So yeah, it was solely needs-based, and turned out to be a really fortunate story. It's a really rewarding story and a rewarding journey.
So clearly there was a big need. So not one or two or even a handful, but over 30 individuals that you hired within a short.
I think over the years it's been over 40.
Yeah.
And since then it's continued to grow.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. Could you walk us through those first days? What was it like to engage and work with this population?
Yeah, it was really unique. So finding out like a day in advance, and that's all we really had. Like these individuals, like you said, are uprooted from their country. They were involved with shutting down the Kabul airport, worked with the armed forces, and then were evacuated, landed here. And the timeline is kind of unknown. So we found out maybe a day or two in advance, hey, we have individuals that are available. They're going to come, they're going to tour. So it was quick, try to figure out how do I say hi? How do I greet people? Like, I want to make sure I'm not offending anybody. And then they came in and met with our team. And that was like on a Wednesday, and I think on a Thursday they started. We had 7 individuals on our second shift. And it was a game changer from day one when they were on site, half hour even before the shift. We had arranged transportation, a lot of different hiccups that existed with that, a lot of challenges that existed with that. But they were out positioned on our floor when our shift meeting started, and all of our full-time people that had been working there for last number of months and were stressed and had all the overtime and were tired of seeing the equipment just shut down without people to staff. They came walking onto the floor ready to start their shift, and they saw the reinforcements are here, right? And just the smiles. It was like an immediate welcoming, which is really neat. And I'm proud that that's part of our culture that at Husco. They didn't walk in and to kind of take a second or third look at trying to figure out who are these guys and what are they doing on our floor, right? They immediately like lit up smiles, like, we've got the help that we need, right? And so that was really cool to see. But it was rocky, right? We fortunately had experience welcoming refugees a number of years ago with a population from Myanmar, and 1 or 2 at a time, working through language challenges and different things. And so we had a certain level of expectations of what was going to happen. But you run into a whole host of new things anytime you have a new country and a new group to work with. So it's challenging. And like I said, you got to find ways that you have a strong team that will make it work and find ways to make it happen instead of finding excuses at it.
Thank you, Mark. And I appreciate the fact that joy that your employees had, I'm sure helped them feel very welcomed. So that's nice. Thank you for sharing that. Wendy and Matt, same question, or whatever. What surprised you about hiring this population?
Sure, definitely. Well, we had somewhat of a similar story. We had during COVID, we had quite the influx of people eating frozen pizza at home, which was amazing. And so we had to really get creative and partner with many agencies and organizations during that time to keep our production lines running. But one of the things that we found is we had a lot of temporary employees from that time period. And we really wanted to, when I joined the organization, to have a little bit higher percentage of Palermo employees. And we said, how can we do this and make the flip of the percentage from temporary to regular, and really started building on that. So that's where we looked at working together with the community organizations and hiring individuals in these roles that could be regular employees and become part of our organization, and with benefits and great pay and a job that will continue moving them forward. So that's one of the things that we are really proud of, is that bringing individuals on as hiring, we knew, I think probably the biggest thing is that we had to have the resources available to do that. So on the team, I have 4 individuals that actually one individual speaks 8 languages, which is amazing. And then 3 of my other individuals speak 3 languages: Burmese, Karen, Rohingya, and then of course Spanish and English and Russian and Mela and all sorts of languages. But that's also where I knew that I had to have the resources available to provide assistance to these to individuals joining our team, no matter what culture they're coming from in their language, from an onboarding perspective, from a new hire side, from training. So yeah, I think that was like the big piece for us. Was like we knew we had to have the resources available to make this work.
It's really impressive, those different languages that you have within the organization. That's a huge benefit. I have to ask you, did you enhance your ingredients to your Palermo's formula as a result of these new cultural influences?
I know. Well, in our cafe we did. So we have a cafe on site that we have 2 individuals that really make awesome dishes from their culture, and they go over very well every single day. So, but not our pizza yet.
Stay open. You might be surprised.
Yes. Our R&D team, I'm sure, we should pick into that.
Sure. So Matt, you want to share?
I would echo a lot of the comments that my colleagues already mentioned. I guess for me, it really started many years ago back in St. Louis, and this was a group of Serbians and Croatians that we worked with at this very large hotel there. And then over the years, it's, based on what's going on in different parts of the world, it's been different individuals that have come over as refugees, but there's a consistency across all of them. As Omar was saying, their people and their needs are truly the same as every other associate that works for Marcus, whether it be in one of our hotels, our theaters, our corporate office. We're fortunate that we work in the world of hospitality. So we usually have folks that are eager to serve and welcome folks. So our teams have always been great to a degree. I would say that, sometimes there's been, a little concern from associates, communication skills. They don't get up to speed as quickly, sometimes because of the communication skills. So as a leader, you do need to be there to kind of work through some of that and remind them, when you first started, right, you didn't know this, and we gave you an opportunity. So sometimes there's some hand-holding. The language barrier is always a challenge, but you embrace that challenge. You offer ESL courses right there in your facility. You connect them with other resources here in Milwaukee, whether it be MATC that has these resources, certainly LSS that can help you with these resources. So the things that you need are out there. You just may need to be that person who helps connect them with these different individuals that will help them. But once you do that, these are individuals. I was speaking to a gentleman named Mohammed yesterday at the Hilton where I've been staying, and he came from Thailand, and he's a refugee, came with his family. And you would think, well, Thailand, why is that, right? And he didn't actually come directly from Thailand. He went from Thailand for whatever reason as a refugee to I'd call it an encampment from what it sounds like, in Burma. And here he and his family lived in tents until they could finally get the opportunity to come to America as a refugee. When I asked him, what brought you here, he said to work and, to care for my family and take care of my family. But what Mohammed was saying was the same thing that many of the housekeepers I dealt with, I'm sorry to admit, something like 30 years ago back at the hotel in St. Louis. So their needs, they have all these common needs. And then if you embrace their culture, we very similarly offer ethnic, we celebrate different ethnicities and cultures within we call it our family room, our break room, our cafeteria. And when you do that and you let them celebrate their culture and share it with their fellow team members, it's just really amazing. And then it's just so enriching, right? At one hotel we put a map of the world up, maybe we've done something similar, and would allow people to show where they're from, where their families are from. Because, if it's not refugees, we might have J1s there, H2Bs, individuals that do come with other backgrounds. And then with this diversity, it really, in our world for hospitality, especially hotels, it makes for a richer experience for every guest. So, I'd echo what they'd say. Sometimes it may seem like, well, there's going to be a lot of moving parts with this. But when you look back at it afterwards, you're like, that was easier than I thought it would be sometimes, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing that. And I just want to say I go a lot to Marcus Corp establishments, especially Pfister Cafe. So I've witnessed and experienced a great culture.
Oh, absolutely.
That you have there, and also the refugees that work there, and they've been there for many years as well. Once they're there, they're there for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
And I've developed friendships actually with some of them. So thank you for the great service, and thank you for hiring them, and giving them an opportunity. Mark, could you give us a cost-benefit analysis of hiring refugees? Think about the significant workforce challenges that you had, productivity, tax credits, low turnover, improved financial performance, all of those factors. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't keep track of those actual figures. I know without having this group involved and having other groups involved, we wouldn't be manufacturing what we are. We'd be on perpetual overtime. I mean, there's the cost amount on that end on a very real scale. And it's offset. There's a lot of, very hands-on support that needs to come from the rest of the team in order to help support an initiative like this. So at the end of the day, I mean, they really do balance out, and I wouldn't be making what we're making now. But there's a cost, there's a upfront, there's a commitment, from all of our indirect staff, and they're going to take the time. You're going to do the language training, you're going to do the ESL courses, you're going to work with these groups, and it does take a little bit more time to get them up to speed. There's other benefits that are a little softer with that. You mentioned even a surprise before. So day 2 from these first 7 that started with us, there was one guy, Maz, and I was trying to help and train him, right? And I'm reading the screen and trying to help him with a fault, and he elbows me out of the way and says, "No, you do it like this." And I was like, and his background is he's a network engineer. He was shutting down the Kabul airport before he got evacuated and landed here, right? He was a translator for the U.S. Army, so he knew all the English, he knew everything. He's more proficient at running our equipment than I was, right? In 2 days, right? And I've been there like 13 years, right? So, those are the pleasant surprises that come from that group. And he's been hired on now as a full-time automation technician. Typically that's associate degree level or 2-year degree level from college degree. He comes with a background. He's got a 4-year degree from Kabul University. So there's a lot there that I think it's harder to capture for some of the costs. We've recognized different benefits in terms of training. There are grants, so we've partnered with the Department of Workforce Development, so we can do worker training and incumbent worker training to try to offset some of those costs, and that's a help. We had a really strong partnership with LSS and with Manpower to find van services. And that came with other credits as well to try to offset the support. At least the initial transportation is one of the major barriers that we faced with trying to get these guys on site, because they live downtown Milwaukee, and there was like 3 or 4 apartment complexes that had probably 30 individuals there. So we had vans that we had to somehow get out to Waukesha over by the airport, right? So it was a little bit longer commute than they were used to, and so we tapped into some of that stuff, which definitely helps. In the grand scheme of things, it's the increased production and things that offset that for sure. And I don't have a measure on that in terms of a cost benefit, but we definitely know that there's a long-term benefit, and we've been recognizing that now for the last couple of years.
Great. Wendy?
Yeah, definitely. So very similar, or some of the same things regarding like the grant with the trainings and things like that through not only the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, but we belong to the Menominee Valley Partners. Our facility is located on Canal Street, and all of those businesses are part of a business association that they helped us with the grant on transportation. So actually, we have like a Uber account, and individuals can take that, and then we get reimbursed through the grant through Menominee Valley Partners. So that was a really nice one that we added. But from a financial side, also, the biggest thing, as I mentioned in the beginning, we partnered a lot with agencies on temporary employees. So now that we were able to bring on regular employees, there's a cost effectiveness with not having additional markup rates, and overtime, I think, is the biggest one, because we did have the staff that individuals didn't have to stay into other shifts and have that additional overtime. So those are probably the biggest things. But one of the key things that we've also found is that individuals that we've hired in these groups, They are probably the most dedicated individuals that we have ever seen, and their work ethic and how proud they are of their work that they do and what they bring every day. They are there every day. They are consistent, and that's half the battle, right? As you all know, is showing up, and we can take care of how you get there and everything else, but it's so rewarding to see that. And I think that's the huge financial piece, is that then we don't have to get a temporary employee to staff that person on that line that day, because those people are there every day. So it's a big piece of it.
Thank you so much. Matt?
I would just, again, it's just nice being in this spot. I'm just going to echo ditto. I thought I'd get to the point of, everybody knows the 80-20 rule, right? You spend 80% of your time with 20% of your team, and that's usually often on coaching and counseling and trying to get them on the right path. This particular group, once you get over the language skills, the initial training, they assimilate into your organization, where sadly, often you don't even realize they're there. You got to go out of your way to make sure you're going and engaging them on their floor where they may work, in the department they might be, because they're not going to be there because they showed up, they didn't show up for the third time, or they couldn't get along with a fellow associate. They're going to be dedicated to production. They're going to be dedicated getting it done. If they can't get something done, it's not usually for a lack of trying or wanting. It's a lack of maybe, again, understanding from a language barrier or something like that. So for us, that type of influence to our bottom line and saving us the most important time, or most important resource, our time sometimes, is very critical. They're also going to want to be part of whatever you're doing. If you're doing community service outreach programs, maybe initially they might be a little shy. I would always say, as a group, they're pretty shy. But once you kind of get through that, and maybe they have some cohorts, maybe from their country or other refugees from other areas, they'll start being very involved in community service you're doing, or any associate programs, rallies, things like that. They're very eager to be part of a team.
Well, thank you so much. Want to wrap up with a couple more questions, and I'll have you all just share your advice for our audience. The first question, maybe we start with Matt this time. You ready, champ?
I got it.
Let's go. What are some of the challenges that businesses might encounter through this process?
Yeah, we touched on a lot of them. Transportation can often mount a challenge. They do not have a vehicle. They can't drive. I love your Uber idea. I'm maybe going to have to try to steal that, because we have grant dollars. There's all these different grants. If you're willing to work with an organization, we had recently worked with Employee Milwaukee on a grant for Serve Milwaukee, which provides money for all these different resources they would need: daycare, transportation, housing, training, incumbent training, all those types of things. So those resources are there, but those are things you will have to deal with. The great thing is once you kind of get it all lined up, it's like open enrollment, or offering benefits or something like that. Once you've connected with the right resources. For me, I've worked in a few different cities over the years, and that resource for the refugees that you're working with may be a different group. And that group you're working with, transportation, may be a different group. But they're there. You just have to do a little work, and then once you set it up, it's really easy. And it's actually easier than having somebody apply through Indeed, interview them, or set up 8 interviews, 3 of them show up. The 3 that show up, only one of them you can hire. They don't show up for their first day, so you start all over again. This particular group is a much better group to work with as far as starting at point A and getting to point Z.
Matt, and I appreciate how all of you really have saw these challenges as opportunities, whether it be through grants or Uber or partners. So thank you for sharing that creativity. Wendy?
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the other big challenge, I know we talked about the language, and we talked about how, like, your story about the training and showing and different things when they would go out to their position. Probably the biggest thing for us was to have individuals to be able to show them specifically how to put their frock on, how to put their hairnet on, how to make sure they had the right shoes. And then from there, we really understood that we needed to have a lot of visuals. So like for us in our department, we have a visual of a dollar sign. So like anybody is in our area, they can come down and they can, if I don't speak the language, they can point to what they have a question on or what they need. And then we can say, okay, just point to the visual. Same thing on the production floor. So when they can visually see like, this is what I need to do. And so that was a little bit different than going through like a standard operating procedure or like reading the manual, right? That's not going to happen. And two, from like a safety perspective and a quality side, everything has to be a visual. So that was just challenging, like a different way that we had to go about showing them and training them for us.
Great. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like I said, we tried to anticipate a lot of the different challenges. Quick Google searches and stuff tried to help. And we were prepared with our work instructions and things. We had some individuals that came in that could translate. Again, a couple of these guys already knew Microsoft Office and could do all this stuff for us. So they're formatting our work instructions. Same pictures, flip it. So you got to read from right to left, which is a little different, a little odd, and try to accommodate some of the things like that come up. And we were very well prepared for that stuff. We weren't necessarily anticipating some cultural differences, which, hey, report at 7 a.m. for your shift. And like some of them came in at like 10 a.m. one day. Like, hey, what was going on here? Oh, it's no problem. Like, it is a problem, right? We're gonna let's work on this. Like, it's no, it's no issue. It's no problem.
Latinos only did that.
It's just like, hey, let's have this understanding. Like, this is how this is going to work, right? And then different things pop up. We recognize Eid and trying to quick figure out Ramadan and how do you help support that, right? And they're recognizing these guys are fasting all day long, right? They're about ready to drop over on the floor, right? And how are we going to help accommodate, but accommodate at a level where it's holding them to the same standards as everybody else. So the same break times, maybe they combine them into one break, or they have their break and they push it back till after sunset so they can eat at that time instead of trying to have a break earlier where they're going to sit in the cafeteria and they're going to twiddle their thumbs because they can't eat, right? Prayer time, washing the feet was a big one. So we've got large locker rooms and nice clean bathrooms. We don't have stations set up to be able to wash feet to then go pray. So we had a quick scramble and figure out how we're going to do this, right? So it's all those little things that pop up that you need to come to the table. And this is something that one of these panels that brought side, this isn't a me thing, this is not a Husco thing, but come with love and come with that understanding. Don't just show up, right? And so be prepared for those things and then find a way to address them and welcome that into your facility versus find a way to, just conform to this. Right? If you're going to work here, you got to do this, right? And a lot of places do that. We used to do that, and then found out very quickly that doesn't help anybody. You got to be accommodating for everybody. And when you do that, you see that enrichment, and you see, people that are coming in to celebrate Thingyan, and then everyone's like, "What's Thingyan? Oh, it's in Myanmar. This is an April thing. Well, why is this in April?" And this year, Thingyan and Ramadan end on the same day or happen on the same time frame. So we have multiple celebrations going on, and it's just this big melting pot, really, of all these different things that are going on, and it's neat, and people are learning from each other, and it's really been enriching our culture, and it's a very positive thing. But you got to knock down those initial barriers, and you got to approach it with love.
Love that. Approach it with love. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Any last thoughts you want to share with the rest of us before we move on?
One more that came up for us that's been really rewarding over the last couple of weeks even. We have an individual who came here pretty early on. He could speak Pashto. He couldn't read or write Pashto. He knew zero English whatsoever. And just the other day, I'm having a conversation with him on the floor, just like this, in English. He can read, write, and speak English now, and it's because he's been just ingrained with it. He does live with a translator for us that helps. He has ESL courses on site at Husco. He reads all of our screens. He can type and communicate in our maintenance logs and things. It's just been an amazing transformation. This guy, he's more than 40 years old when he came to the U.S. And again, he never had that background for education, never had that opportunity. And he soaks up English like a sponge, and like he recognizes that that's what needs to happen. That's going to be really helpful for him, and he's embraced that challenge. It's just been rewarding to see, right? And then you walk out on the floor and like, he can flag me down, and we have a conversation like this. He asks about my kids, right? And we talk about his family, and it's neat. It's really neat to see. Whereas day one, right, it was nothing beyond the hi, how are you, right? And just to watch that grow, it's been really neat. Very cool.
Anybody else want to share?
I was just going to add, there was a couple of other things that we did that were just a little bit, I would say unique, but to assist with the workforce that we have. We actually knew that like very many cultures and days and holidays and different things like that. So what we did is we added a floating holiday to celebrate the cultural holiday of your choice. So because it would be virtually impossible to provide a holiday for every holiday that was happening within our workforce. So that was one thing that we added. The second thing that I'm super proud of, there's actually two that's coming up in the very near future. One, we actually purchased headphones so that individuals, when they come to meetings, they would actually wear a headphone and hear the translator in the back of the room in their language. So when we're having a meeting like this, I don't have to say, we're having a meeting and then pause and then multiple translations happening. They can wear the headphones and they can hear them. They can actually, we show videos in their languages too with the headsets. During that, we have monthly meetings, they're called huddles. So we do a lot of training that way, which we implemented right off the bat because it was very hard to have a group setting and to translate. And then the other piece is, what I'm super proud of is coming up very shortly in our learning management system, our connection with our HRIS system. So when someone is getting trained, they'll pull up they have a QR code, they'll scan the QR code. They will know the employee based off of the HRIS employee information that they speak Burmese. So when the QR code gets scanned, the training will automatically come up in Burmese and have a video or some sort of tutorial in their language automatically. So really excited about that in terms of their continued development as well, because that's the key piece, right, is to have them join. It's for anybody, have them join our organization and continue to develop and grow, whether it be their language skills, ESL, going from an associate to a weight checker to an operator of one of the huge machines. I mean, that's the ultimate skill-based position, into maintenance, into a lead position. So all those different things that we can do to help them grow and stay is a key piece. So I just wanted to add those couple of things that we did to help with that.
Thank you so much for sharing. Matt, you got the last word?
Yeah, just a couple quick things is we had issues sometimes with the refugee and the individual from whichever country, sometimes lacking an understanding of the role, understanding of what they'd be asked to do. We created some work samples, provided realistic job previews. Things like that can be very helpful. Sometimes for them, it may seem daunting, but if you either let them see it be done or let them sample doing it, whatever the process, work, duties you might require. Then the other thing I would, and I wish we had an LMS as awesome as what it sounds like you have. Ours is not good. But sometimes you will need to push them out of their comfort zone, right? Like I was talking about Mohammed when I started here, and he could easily keep doing what he's doing. He's one of the best at what he does in our hotel. And sometimes you need to push them just a little bit. They may still, I made it, I've got up to speed here, I'm happy here, why would I change this? You may have to show them that maybe that next step in their career a little bit more than, and it's not that they lack initiative, it's just sometimes they may need a little bit more guidance, that it's okay to say, yeah, I'm interested in doing more, I'm interested in making more, I want more opportunities. They may be just a little bit more shy with that, and will need your encouragement and help. And it's easy, like I said, for them to assimilate and blend in, and you forget about that. So, keeping a roster of who might be ready for that next step. I don't know if you track high potentials through your HRIS or LMS or anything like that, but really making sure you have a culture for future growth and advancement and development.
Wow. Thank you so much. How did they do? So I want to just share that I just want to thank you for taking the step and hiring our refugees and individuals, again, that were facing incredible odds, and you gave them an opportunity, a chance for them to work and get integrated into our society and live the American dream. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for the accommodations you have made that makes this possible. It makes it successful for the refugee as well as for yourself, washing feet, allowing them to pray, and having a little bit of tolerance when they come in at 10 and they're supposed to start at 7 a.m. I love the words of joy and love that I heard on this panel. I mean, that makes a difference. That makes people feel welcomed, feel a sense of belonging, and it matters. I look forward to a day where I'm going to have a Palermo's pizza with some additional ingredients influenced by some of the cultures. It's going to be the greatest pizza in the world, even though their pizza is very good right now. I appreciate learning about the work ethic of how people are assimilating. And I really appreciate how you want to push and help these individuals reach their full potential. And I want to encourage you to continue to do more of that. That's really important, to let them know what's possible and have that belief in them will really give them a lot of courage. And I appreciate the way you've addressed your challenges through grants and Uber and talked about language and housing, all of those things. So thank you. Appreciate you so much for all you do. Appreciate your partnership and look forward to doing more.
We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you. That said, I'll turn it over to Morrow.
Great. Thank you, Héctor. What a great panel. We appreciate you so much. I also want to thank First Business Bank for being our sponsor today. We love it when our Partner Circle members open up their spaces to us and host us for these important topics. So we couldn't be happier to be sponsored today by First Business Bank. We've got a few minutes, so I want to open it up to the audience for some questions. I have a microphone with me.
Morning, thank you. Jason Della, I was MRA, Panelists Association. I had a question. In previous life, I tried to do a lot of what you have succeeded in doing and was less successful. One of the areas I struggled was the issue of grants, and a lot of you mentioned a grant for this, a grant for that organization, and this organization. Do you have any guidance, or is there, ideally, of course, the Eureka moment would be a single source of information that you can go to that has access to that kind of information? Because one thing I struggled with was finding out exactly how to get the grants we needed to make this work and who to speak to, and it was hard. So I was just wondering if you have any advice or any way you can point employers to help them with that challenge.
Sure. We started tapping LSS on the shoulder and trying to figure out how to get there. So they were kind of like the gateway. And then once you establish a couple of those connections, then they like to network amongst themselves as well. So there's other grants and things that we found that are related to that. So there's a contact that we're set up with LSS that kicked us off with the band services and different things. And then from there, we just keep asking, is there anything else somebody else should talk to? And they're like, well, I don't know if this will work, or I don't know if this will qualify. This is Milwaukee County based, but you guys are in Waukesha, but you're serving Milwaukee County. Maybe we can get creative, and you just have to just keep digging and keep at it. But yeah, somebody like LSS to help support that has been crucial, because I would have ran into the same thing without knowing how to get into it and start getting that support. Yeah.
I think I mentioned before our partners, Menominee Valley Partners with the association. So I don't know if there's one single point of contact. By the way, we love MRI. We've been members for probably 25 years. So thank you for all of the resources that you guys provide on so many different things. So thank you for that. But one of the things I think that really helped was just understanding the community that you're in. We mentioned MATC. We belong to, it's called the FAB, it's Food and Beverage Association. So it's like industry specific. They also have a lot of networks and individuals that you can reach out to. We've been a little bit fortunate because we've expanded into different communities, such as Jefferson is where our second location is. And then in West Milwaukee is where our new building will be. And those communities had the connections with the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development and Economic Development Corporation. MMAC in Milwaukee also just has a ton of connections. So I think that you just look for like even like the chamber, right? And then you can just, branch out from that, or just different resources from one single source that can help you then get in touch with all of the other areas.
Yeah, and I would just, Department of Workforce Development, is email, something that I'm on that's fast or quick. It's like a
fast forward, yeah.
Fast forward grants. There you go. Yep. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I get emails all the time, so you read it, see if it would fit. My advice would be never try to write your own grants. LSS probably has some fabulous grant writers there. I've worked with the grant writers at Employ Milwaukee. I believe MATC and many universities have grant writers that can work with you as well. This is not me patting myself or the industry advisory board that I'm on with Employ Milwaukee on our backs. But, they came to us, right? Employ Milwaukee said, you're one of our best industry advisory boards. You're very active. You always have great ideas. You're always great partners. You show up at our job fairs or opportunities. Is there an opportunity to go after some of these federal grant dollars that were out there? So we looked at it, and we always tend to lean towards training, and training is always a big part of it. But we looked and developed a grant plan around retention, right? Our issue in our industry, hospitality, has been holding on to the folks, right? We had to hire like crazy. 2/3 of our population as an industry, as a business sector, went away during the pandemic, and then we had to rehire all those individuals back, and many of them moved on to other industries, so we had to hire. And so this retention issue, so we really wrote a grant specific more to that, to where if Héctor comes in and works in this role, but they don't fit in this role, how could we get them training for other roles? And how can we get some folks to deal with maybe some of the trauma these folks have dealt with in their past? And all these different resources, childcare, transportation, all rolled up in one. And we got a $2.6 million grant to be used across and it's called Serve Milwaukee. But it's really through that resource, Employ Milwaukee or LSS, and partnering with them. If you can work as a group, be it FAB or Menominee Valley, it works better because you're all contributing your ideas. One of the partners here was the service union, right? We had them partner, right? Many of our associates work with them. These are your members eventually, right? Let's partner. Let's figure out how, because they benefit zero for somebody coming, working 60 days and leaving. They're not even a union member until after 90 days. So they want to get over this issue too. So you find these partnerships and opportunities. But I've been there. I've run into wall after wall after wall for the, help with certain different grants and how that might work, and certain grants getting turned down even though you put a lot of work into them. But once you get it, then the real challenge comes to making sure that you're utilizing every cent to the utmost you can to help your incumbent workers, refugee groups, students, anybody you can out there to try to get them connected with your industry opportunities and field. Sorry, that's long.
No, thank you so much. We're actually right at our time today, and I'm sure that others of you may have questions. So Kelly Nowakowski, who coordinates all of these events for us so well, if you have additional questions and would like to submit those to Kelly, we can turn around and help you find the answers to your questions. I think there was great advice. Reach out to LSS. We are here to help you. We're hosting this Partners Circle event this morning so that you can learn more about this and see if it might be right for your business. So please reach out to Héctor, reach out to myself. We're here to help you. Omar is our expert in the field, and he works with businesses. And then we have 3 incredible experts sitting right in front of us. So I'd like to thank you all for making this just a wonderful morning and a great way to start our day.